Hello everyone, Josh Terebelo. I'm an attorney with Michigan Auto Law, and we're here today to talk to you about the changes in the law as it affects to motorcycle drivers. So I'm just going to wait a second to let some more viewers come on, and then we'll get into the changes in the law. Alright, so Michigan actually has special rules for people who are on motorcycles, and the reason for that is that there's cases that actually say motorcycles are not motor vehicles. The people who are on them are essentially special forms of pedestrians, and because of that, there's actually special laws that were in place for motorcycle drivers, motorcycle passengers, and now they've actually been changed. Unfortunately, they haven't been changed to your benefit. So what you have to understand is before, with the changes, with what the law was, as long as your motorcycle was insured, God forbid you were involved in a collision, you were on your motorcycle, you were still entitled to PIP benefits. You were entitled to unlimited PIP benefits. After the law changed on June 11th of 2019, your rights are actually entirely going to be held by the person who hit you or that order of priority. You no longer, if you're on your motorcycle, you no longer control any of the PIP benefits that you're going to get. Now, all of this relies upon the fact that you as the owner of a motorcycle, your motorcycle is properly insured. You have to have it insured before you go out there in the first place. But assuming that it is, and that's what we're here to talk about today, God forbid you're involved in a collision. And I will tell you, over 70% of collisions involving people on motorcycles, it's the driver of a vehicle that's actually at fault for that collision. But if you're involved in a collision, you're entitled to your PIP benefits. And before, you would get them unlimited. Now, the person who hit you, or that order of priority, is the one that is entirely in control of the PIP benefits that you're going to be getting. Now, we've had a lot of Facebook Live and webinars and things that on what PIP benefits are, so go back, take a look at those, but the important thing that you have to understand is that after July 1st of 2020, your PIP benefits are entirely controlled by the election of the person who hit you. And if the person who hit you, or that order of priority, which we'll go over in just a minute, didn't have any, then it goes through the assigned claims fund. And yes, you can claim your excess medical now against the person who hit you, but what we're here really to talk about today is how your injuries, unfortunately, may not be covered, and what you're going to be facing now as a motorcycle driver or as a motorcycle passenger. So, what you need to know first and foremost is that now, the person who hit you, and that order of priority for your PIP benefits, that's the one that is going to control everything. So if you're a driver or if you're a passenger of a motorcycle that is properly insured, this is the order of your priority of benefits. First, you go to the owner of the vehicle involved. So if you're on your motorcycle and you get rear-ended at a stoplight by a Chevy, the PIP, the order for paying your PIP benefits goes to the owner of the vehicle involved. So the person who hit you, whoever owns that vehicle. Now say there wasn't insurance by the owner and it was being driven by a friend. It would then go to the driver of the vehicle involved. So if that person wasn't insured, after that it would go to the auto insurer of the operator of the motorcycle. So say you don't have your own vehicle. It wouldn't be then an auto insurer of the operator of the motorcycle. After that, it would go to the passenger's own auto insurer. I'm sorry, this is for passengers. It would go to the passenger's own auto insurer, and then after that, it would go to a resident relative or a spouse. Now, the same rules would essentially apply if you're the driver, except for there wouldn't be the passengers. There wouldn't be the passenger for your potential PIP benefits. What does all this mean, though? After July of 2020, there's going to be the election of benefits. And if the person who hit you, if the owner of that car elected $50,000 because they were on Medicaid, the most that you're going to be able to collect in PIP benefits, you're going to be protected for your medical bills, is going to be $50,000. You won't be able to get above that. So what if they have Medicare and they've completely opted out and you suffer catastrophic injuries? You're not going to be entitled to any form of PIP benefits. Your medical bills are not going to be covered from them. Now again, this is separate from wage loss. We've gone over this before, replacement services, but you won't have any of your medical bills covered. So if someone's on a motorcycle and they're hurt, odds are their injuries are generally pretty severe because you don't have the same, safety provisions around you. You're not obviously in a car. There's a lot of There's going to be direct hits on you. You're going to be hitting the ground, etc. So you're not going to have the same coverage, but now your PIP benefits aren't going to be fully covered. The only way, essentially, that you're still going to be fully covered is if the person who hit you elected unlimited PIP benefits. And unfortunately, we don't believe the majority of people are going to be doing that. Now, if there is no insurance whatsoever that you get to go to, you still get to go to the Michigan Assigned Claims Plan. And the Michigan Assigned Claims Plan, the cap that you're going to be able to get there is $250,000. So what is the takeaway of all this? Your PIP benefits are going to be limited by the policy of the person who hit you. Now, what you couldn't do before is you couldn't sue that person for your excess medical. That wasn't allowed in Michigan. That was changed. So that is something that you're going to be able to do, but you're still going to be limited by the policy that they have. So if they elected the lowest liability coverage which you can have, which is supposed to be $250,000, but you can actually elect $50,000, that's going to be what you can get for your medical bills as well. So as a motorcycle driver, you really need to be aware of the fact that you're not going to be covered for your catastrophic injuries like you would if you were in an automobile. So the order of priorities has not changed. We've gone over this before. The order of priorities remains the same, but the most important thing that the changes will affect is the fact that you are subject to the limits of the person or the owner of that vehicle. You are subject to their limits. Now, one thing which you should know, obviously, as we talked about before, is that you have to have your motorcycle properly insured. Before July 2nd of 2020, it had to be $20,000 or $40,000. Now it can be Now the minimum is $50,000, $100,000. So the liability limits are potentially raised. They are raised, and that's something which you can have to protect yourself. They do offer underinsured and uninsured coverage as well. We would recommend that you elect the highest that you can, obviously. So, what does this mean for you and your injuries? If you don't have insurance coverage that's available to you while you're on a motorcycle, or if they've elected small limits, you're going to be looking at Medicaid or potentially bankruptcy. So you need to be really aware of this fact that while you're on a motorcycle, the fact that most people are not going to be electing high limits is going to be impacting you directly. So say you handled everything right on your automobile and you elected unlimited coverage. The level of your PIP benefits while you're on a motorcycle is still limited by the person who hit you. Now, hopefully, this is going to be addressed by the legislature, but we're not there yet. So, what should you do while you're on a motorcycle? One of the things which you can talk about with your insurance company is the fact that you can obtain an insurance policy that does handle payment of first-party medical. It's an election that you have to take. It's going to cost you extra. Not all insurance companies are going to offer it. You should also look into your own private health insurance, which will cover if there is not PIP coverage for you. Again, there could be exclusions on that, but you really need to be aware of what insurance you've purchased. You can now claim this again against the person who hit you. That will be all a part of a third-party case that you have. Those are called your excess medical benefits. So these are just some of the general changes that you have to be aware of. But the injuries when it comes to people who are on motorcycles, whether they're drivers, the driver of the motorcycle, or the passengers, are generally catastrophic. So you really need to be aware that you're not protected like you were before. Now, Steve Gerson, he puts out great blogs on this. I would go to michiganautolaw.com/blog. Go take a look at the information there. And also, all the attorneys here are happy to answer any question that you have. But the biggest changes in this law do not work to your benefit. They work to your detriment if you're on a motorcycle. One thing which you should also know is that the law still remains the same relative to helmets. We, of course, 100% encourage you to wear helmets. Okay, you don't have the same protection while you're on a motorcycle. You don't have the fact that you are, surrounded by steel, which is supposed to absorb, impacts, airbags, things like that. The law doesn't require you to wear a helmet. That is up to you. We, of course, recommend for you to wear helmets, but know that your injuries while you're on a motorcycle, if you were to get hit, are generally going to be very severe, and you're not going to be covered as you were before. But again, all this information is on michiganautolaw.com/blog, and I'm happy to answer any questions if there are.
Okay, we have a couple questions.
Sure.
One is, when should they call their insurance agents and or insurance companies to start thinking about how they should change their policy considering what you've said?
Yesterday. You need to do it immediately. Now, the laws where it actually goes into effect relative to the election of, the law actually went into effect July 11th of 2019, where people are actually going to be electing their limits. That goes into effect essentially July 1st of 2020. So you have some time, but don't wait. I would start exploring it right now, and obviously call our office. Happy to help you with anything, but don't wait on it, because if you wait on it, you may not be able to get what you're looking for. And also, depending on if you're looking for private insurance and things like that, there's going to be an election period on that as well.
Okay. What are the implications, let's say like in a lawsuit, if they don't wear a helmet and get seriously injured?
Okay, well, here's the answer to that question. Jury's not going to like it. Are you allowed to do it? Absolutely. You do not have to wear a helmet. However, we're trial attorneys here, and we know the impact of this on how juries look at that. Juries do not like if you're driving on a motorcycle and you don't have a helmet on. Does it impact anything as to your claim? Absolutely not. It is perfectly legal for you to be out there without a helmet on, but the legality of it doesn't change the fact of how jurors look at it. And a jury is going to hold that against you regardless of the fact that they're not supposed to. But for your own safety, you should be wearing your helmet.
Okay. That was a great answer, Josh. Thanks. Another question that we have is, will this new law affect how much they can get for the pain and suffering, like if they did do a lawsuit to get the rest of their bills paid?
Sure. Now, one thing which it will impact what you can get, of course. You still, when you're suing another individual, you're still subject to whatever the policy limits that they elected. So hopefully people are going to be electing the $250,000 and up. Quite frankly, you should be protecting yourself in general with more than that. It doesn't cost you much to do it. But this all falls into what you can claim against that person. So say you get hit by someone, you're rear-ended at a light, you're on a motorcycle, and they have $250,000 in coverage. And you have $500,000 in medicals that are not covered or that you're going to need in the future. That's just part of your damages, but the most that insurance company is going to pay is $250,000. So it is an element of damages that you can claim, and we couldn't claim that before. So if they have a higher policy, yes, you can be protected that way, but I'd never like leaving my fate in someone else's hands. Some of your carriers will offer underinsured and uninsured coverage on motorcycles. Get as high as you can, because if you elect that uninsured or underinsured and it's covered on your motorcycle, you can claim your medical bills then again against your own insurance company that way on your motorcycle. But what you've claimed on your own car, and I talked about this in a Facebook Live a few weeks ago, why you should elect the highest coverage that you can. What you claim on your own car is completely irrelevant to you being on a motorcycle. It will not cover you there.
Okay. Well, let's say that you do hit that limit as to what you can claim on those medical benefits. Wouldn't your medical insurance just pick it up after that?
No. Unfortunately, a lot of your medical insurance are going to have an exclusion where they won't be covering it. So if they don't, you won't be able to do it. Now, certain ones have to. Okay, Medicaid will have to, but that's assuming that you're on Medicaid. But if you don't have health insurance that covers you, and a lot of people don't have health insurance that'll cover you, your medical bills are simply not going to be paid, and the only way out of it is going to be bankruptcy. So that's something that you need to be concerned about. Now again, certain health insurance will cover you, okay? So this isn't, that God forbid you're involved in a collision, you're on a motorcycle, and the only out for you is going to be bankruptcy. That's not the case. Certain health insurance will cover it, okay? But one thing which you have to understand too is that health insurance, depending on what type it is, Medicare, perfect example, has a right of reimbursement for any money that you get, ever. So there's going to be things like Medicare set-asides if you have Medicare, repayments to Medicare, Medicaid, all of that is things that you're going to have to be concerned about if you don't have proper insurance to cover you. So yes, certain health insurance will cover you, Medicare, Medicaid, but you're gonna have to pay them back. I would look for coverage through your carrier. I would also look for private insurance that will not have a right of reimbursement and does not have an exclusion. But that's a topic for a different day. We could talk about that for a really long time. Feel free to give me a call. I'm happy to go over any of this with you or any of the other attorneys over at Michigan Auto Law.
With the new law change, what about the MCCA? Are they covered under that?
The amount that you're covered, that's the Michigan Catastrophic Claims Association. The amount that you're covered, if there's no coverage for you, will be $250,000. So we went through that order of priorities earlier. Call us if, God forbid, you're involved in a collision. We'll make sure who it is that you need to see, which insurance company is supposed to be responsible for it. But if there is no coverage through the order of priority, the vehicle that hit you didn't have insurance, no owner, there isn't one on the driver, the operator, it's going to be $250,000. So that is what the MCCA is going to be responsible for.
Okay. I think we're all set with the questions.
Okay.
Perhaps give more information about where they can learn more.
All right, so again, feel free to call our office anytime. All the attorneys here are happy to help, happy to answer any questions that you have. But like I talked about before, Steve Gersten has a great blog. It's www.michiganautolaw.com/blog. Go take a look, go read all this information there, call us with any questions at all.